These videos are meant to just really give you a better overview as to how the systems work and how you can get the most from them. So this video is going to talk about the threat protection, email threat protection, that you can use what's called POP3. And basically your computer or your phone would pop and look into the server where all of your mail would reside, and it would simply grab that email out and straight into your device. You could tell your device to leave the mail there for future reference, or to remove it from the server once your device had pulled it in. But essentially, as you can see straight away, the major drawback there is if you've got infected emails sitting on your server, you've just pulled them straight into your device. So POP3, it worked, but in today's day and age of cybersecurity, it really isn't enough. Then came IMAP. IMAP was great when it came out because, again, you didn't have to constantly keep popping in to look for email or send and receive to check your email, because IMAP was always open. It was always sort of listening to hear if anything landed in your mailbox. If it did, you got a push notification and your mail was in your mailbox. Great, we thought. Again, nothing sitting in between you and that email. So again, your device open really to the world of threats. So swiftly on, we moved to Exchange. Most people had Exchange servers in their business, and the beauty of Exchange was it was the next step on from IMAP, in that you had control of your email rather than it having to be hosted somewhere else. You had it on your own server, and it enabled you to create multiple users on your server for the cost of just having a server, basically. So you weren't having to pay for all of these multiple email accounts, which we've now gone back to doing. Microsoft 365, predominantly where people are using their email service now. Yes, there's lots of Google users as well, nothing wrong with that, but our platform is based on Microsoft. Now, what we do with our security system, I talked a little bit about mail coming straight into your device. What we do is we put something in the middle, and we call that a sandbox, and it's a security sandbox. Your mail goes into our sandbox first. Our security sandbox will then scan it for malware, infections, spam, spoofing attempts. Nothing in this world is 100% guaranteed, but it does do all of those four things at an extremely high success rate. So it scans for any false positives, it scans for any thresholds that are met, and if it feels that email is worthy of being retained, it will then quarantine it. Now, when emails are quarantined, they will appear in your quarantined report, which looks like this. So when you receive a quarantine report, this is what it will look like in your email. Obviously, I've filled my screen with the email, but you should receive a quarantine report that looks similar to this. And by default, we will only configure a report to come out to you if it actually contains something. We don't want to, bother your broadband and take up your bandwidth by sending you empty quarantine reports. It just doesn't make sense. The thing with a quarantine report is, obviously, you don't want too long a gap between receiving a quarantine report, because you want to know what's been held, and until you've released it, you won't then receive that email. So within the quarantine report, you can see, you can view, you can search, you can sort through the report, you can request a current report. If you feel you want one that's more up to date, you can request a current one, and you can change the report settings. And you can do all of this by clicking on these links, which will launch the web browser, log you into your particular threat protection account, and allow you to request or make these changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to view this particular email that's come in, and by clicking and viewing through this, we're going to view it through the portal. So we're not going to download it into our mailbox and potentially infect our mailbox. We're simply going to view it. Now, another thing to talk about when it comes to the infections, if an email is found to be infected, it won't actually even appear in your quarantine report here, but it will appear in your portal. So that's a really important thing. If something is classed as infected, we're not going to allow it to be on your quarantine report, because you could inadvertently just quickly click on release. And that's part of the human nature. We do things so quickly, we don't always slow down to see what we're actually clicking. So the danger of putting something in there that would be a infected email is that you would click on release by mistake and then have it coming into your mailbox. We don't want that to happen. So I'm going to click on view, and that will launch a new window where I'll be able to show you a little bit more on the system. So once I've clicked that link, it's launched me into the threat protection portal. I've signed in, and essentially I can see what this email pertains to. This is the back end code of the email, and that's how the threat protection system analyzes that email. As I say, it's not 100% guaranteed all the time, because there's malicious software being generated all of the time that's trying to outthink our systems. So here I can see, yeah, pretty much it's spam, which is why it was held. I'm not really interested in it. It's also coming from China. We can block emails from certain countries. We don't tend to do that by default, because basically email servers are dotted all over the world. And although your email might come from me to you, we're both in the UK, it might actually hit a server in Europe before it hits you. So we've got to be a little bit careful when it comes to blocking countries. There are certain countries that we have definitely blocked by default, and that's because we know we don't want an email that's even gone via those servers. And if that's something you want us to do for you, we can do it. So I've looked at this email. I know I don't want it. That's why it's in the quarantine as potential spam. I can also do other clever things. I can show headers. Again, this allows me to do some probing, and it allows you to copy and paste. If we said to you, oh, well, can you send us the header? You can actually show headers and actually copy and paste this information and send it to us for further analysis if that's something that we need to do. You've also got, if you see here, you'll have a show allowed list. So if this was a legitimate email that I wanted, and I did want to receive emails from Vicky from now on, I could click on my email address and I could click on submit request to administrator. What that then does is that sends a alert and a request to us to manually allow Vicky to be whitelisted for you so that she doesn't get blocked forevermore. You could also request that we whitelist the domain as well. Again, note on that, this requires human intervention. So a technician will look at your request, and if it's a safe request, we will allow it. If you've ticked on allow hotmail.com, we won't allow that, because that is allowing too broad a scope for you to receive emails that could be suspicious, because by making an allow request, that overrides our filters. So if you said, well, I want all emails from hotmail.com, potentially every single email that's sent to you from a hotmail.com email account will be allowed into your mailbox. We don't really want that. So we would always question that, or try to help you understand why we're not allowing that straight into your mailbox. So once I've clicked that, I could submit to administrator. It then gets sent to us as a request. We'll look at that request and we will either release it or get in contact with you if we're concerned about it. If you wanted that email straight away, you would just click on release, and that email would then appear in your Outlook application or whatever email client you're using as a normal email, and you'll be able to act upon it and use it as normal. So that is our threat protection system in a real quick hit. Again, while you're in the portal, you've got some menus up here as well. So I'm just going to go through those. Here's some statistics. 8 spam emails a day have been blocked. Average size of a spam email. How much of my email mailbox was actually spam over the last 7 days, which has been blocked. So that's 28.9% of emails in my mailbox over the last 7 days was spam. I won't have known them because I won't have seen them. So they won't even have slowed our broadband down. They won't have caused chatter, wasted my time looking at them, because the system has pretty much blocked them. I can also go into what's in my quarantine area as a user. So this is what's been quarantined. This is what it's held back from me needing to go through. I can actually see 1 or 2 here that I actually would allow. This is a purchase that's been made, so I recognize that, and I do want that. Not interested in that. I don't think there's anything else that I really want. So that one I'm going to release, and I'll just release it for now because it's PayPal. So I'm just going to say release, and I'll get that. Any malware that's been held, yeah, that's malware that's been held back, so I won't even have known it. Any emails that I've released, these are ones that I've released, and these are ones that will be old spam that I didn't release, and I just basically told it to delete them. So essentially from the portal, I can see all of these. As I just said, they're classed as spam. I'm going to highlight, I'm just going to say delete all actually. So yeah, delete all. They're all gone. So they will now all be in trash. That's my final destination for anything I delete, like a normal mailbox. This basically is like a replica of your mailbox, and you manage it in the same way as you manage your mailbox. Instead, you're not being bombarded by pages and pages of nonsense that you simply don't need. So I'm just going to delete them all. Get rid of them all. I don't need them. Nice and clean. So report settings. This is where I said you can make slight changes to the frequency of how often you receive reports, and you know, by making any changes here and saving the changes, they'll be made automatically and they'll take effect straight away. Aliases, I'm not going to bombard you too much about aliases. Attachment quarantines, well, that pretty much again speaks for itself. That'll be attachments that have been quarantined because they're potentially infected or dangerous, or the system has regarded them as dangerous. And at the moment, there's nothing in there, which is great. So again, that was a real whistle-stop tour of how the email threat protection sits between your mailbox and the internet. It's a very, very powerful tool, and I would really strongly suggest that you take a look at it. Just spend 5 or 10 minutes just having a look around it, getting to understand it, and start adding it a little bit to your admin routine. Because, as I said, the last thing you want is for important emails to sit there by mistake because they've create a false positive. You want those whitelisted. So I really hope that's helped. I hope that's made a lot of sense. If you've got any queries, just send them to support@anytechsolutions.com, and we'll try and answer those as quickly as possible for you. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye for now.